And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abomination and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, Mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Welcome, everyone. Michael and I are back today again on our second session of the weekend, and it is, of course, still Sabbath, July 22nd, 2023. And Michael is in Germany. I'm here in Minnesota, USA, and we are going to continue down this China Silk Road that leads to the death of Bruce Lee and all of the incidents that led up to that and stem out to the current day. And we just witnessed the 50th anniversary of the death of Bruce Lee, didn't we, Michael?
Mm-hmm. Yes, 2 days ago, on the 20th of July in 1973. But there's also something to that which I don't want to reveal now. But last time we spoke about drug addiction and opium trade, heroin trade, and also that Bruce Lee's father happened to be an opium addict. Well, these were war times. Japanese had occupied Hong Kong in the 1940s, huh? So many people need to escape the situation, at least mentally, and so they were doing drugs. And we know that the triads have controlled the drug trade. And of course, thank you for that very excellent introduction to the session by quoting the Bible.
Oh, you're very welcome. Revelation 17, yeah, the beginning, I think, beginning verses.
Mm-hmm. So I happened to discover a timeline of Bruce Lee. It's called The Last Months of Bruce Lee. It's coming from Pop Cult Master, so a certain guy who is very prolific in the movie industry. And we will use that as the basement of, or the foundation of our research, of our timeline, actually. And this has so much extensions here and excerpts here that I can't estimate how long it will take. But so let's start. So this is the second half of some previous article, Bruce Lee being murdered, which I would not mention because I have implemented so much information into this that I think that it's more convenient and also more logic to go into this in a kind of a chronological order. Here you see Betty Ting Pei, the woman in which apartment Bruce Lee had been found. He died in somebody's house, as Jackie Chan so prolific told you. And of course, she is very infamous for being the mistress at one certain time of Bruce Lee, although he was married and having 2 children. But that was also common in China. So don't blame Mr. Bruce Lee on being the exception from the rule. It was just a rule to have mistresses.
So, that reminds me of France too. Good friend of mine, he was once married to a French woman, and I was really surprised one day when I called and I got her on the phone and she was with another man, and I was shocked. But I've never, had any experience with that till then. But yeah, these things do happen, Michael.
Yes, these things are happening I think more frequently if you go up higher in the social circles in the hierarchy.
Mhm.
If you serve Satan, then you're not have no fidelity anymore. You see that you're bound to material things, and you want to have anything in your possession. And in the Chinese social circle, it's absolutely common to have several mistresses. You see that, in fact, the mother of Bruce Lee actually happened to be a concubine. Yeah, so that guy had several wives and several mistresses and concubines and what you would like to name them. So many women around. And where do we know many women around? Can you think of a guy called Solomon?
Yeah, that's right. Michael, I would argue with you a little bit on, the status of the common man, because the common man is the natural man in the Bible, and it's the nature of man to fall into this pit that has been dug by Satan, and to fall into temptations and to be led of that spirit. And it's only by the grace of God that he saves those souls from their impending death, spiritual death, being cut off from the Most High God, to have no remorse, as some of these people have no remorse. They don't have a soul, so to speak. They don't have that emotional part of them that hits them to the core. And there are times when it's just uncontrollable tears. It's undescribable, the pain. But these people don't see it that way. They can't. They've been blinded. Bible speaks about it too, about those that are blinded. It's like the kings of the earth that are unaware.
I think the problem is that these actors, politicians, they serve as a role model.
Yes, there we go. Now we're in the role of Inter Mirifica, using the media as merchandise. Yes. We're dealing with the souls of men, as it says in the book of Revelation, I believe, too. Turning men into merchandise, women into merchandise. Very common.
So I think that my goal in the Satanic Media Agenda would be to look behind the curtain, to unravel the things in a quite different approach that all these biographers would do, because they know every detail of his life, which I don't want to know, because I'm not keeping busy myself with any idol, but I just want to know the agenda behind it. And as I will state every time, that I think that Hong Kong served as the catapult into his career, because the Americans could not afford to have an Asian actor in the primary role as the lead actor when they have their religious war in Vietnam. So, welcome to the year 1973, the last year of the life of Bruce Lee so far. Why so far? Because you see, there are also rumors that he has living, but you see that he would be 83 now. So come on. So, Wednesday, January the 3rd, 1973, Michael Allen, the scriptwriter of the last movie Enter the Dragon, goes to the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Hong Kong as to dine with Robert Clouse, the director of that movie, and Fred Weintraub, the main producer. Fred tells Michael that Bruce walked out in anger over the script. According to Clouse, he was so angry, speaking of Bruce Lee, that he took a swing at Linda Lee, his wife, who had better chances of being his widow than a divorcee. I can't back that up. I'm just quoting a website now, you see? But it's the most interesting and prolific website about Bruce Lee that I found up to this very date. And I have read several biographies, thousands of pages, and keeping myself busy with that for too much of a time. So that means you can also assume that living together with Bruce Lee in private is a strange task, because that man also wanted to be the biggest hero, the biggest star in the entire world. So there's not much room left for empathy. There's not much room left for marriage and family, because he's only busy making movies to make it. You see that he had the contract with Warner Brothers of Hollywood, and so that he wanted to do that right. And everything that would keep him away from his goal, if the script does not fit, if the actor does not play well, so he's furious. He was being very, very, very infamously known for his bad temper. And this bad temper can, of course, also be the result of sleep deprivation, stress level, drugs, whatever. We will see. We will try to get a picture. So this is like detectives going on the track of Bruce Lee. Friday, January the 19th, Raymond Chow, being his companion, insures Bruce's life under a Singaporean company called American International Assurance. So, before the official takes were made, the official movie was starting to begin, he insured his life. Interesting. According to my humble opinion and to my knowledge, this was not the average policy of an insurance, but an additional one. Sunday, January the 28th. According to Fred Weintraub's 2011 memoir, Bruce Lee, Woodstock and Me, the first week of filming is supposed to begin. According to Paul Heller, in a 2004 issue of JD Screen, Bruce was absent for many reasons, beside being nervous about starring in his first United States film. Paul didn't want to elaborate due to some personal reasons other than describing Bruce as a great strategist. One could speculate that Bruce needed the time to put on some weight since he was losing it, hence why the first scenes which he filmed were ones where he was fully clothed. And that reminded me of an invoice he got for a fitness rack in November 1972, where his role model was the Great Gama. That was a wrestler which was still undefeated. And that was a fitness rack. That's a picture I found. I do not know if that is the actual rack, but it seems 70s-like. Yeah. So the Great Gama was a wrestler who won over 5,000 matches, allegedly. He was an avid follower of his training routine. And that could be, of course, that he needed 4 or 5 weeks to train to get in the best shape of his life to star in this movie. So that is a possibility. It's not a natural fact. You can also have isometric trainings. You have trainings with your own body. Can also, so that is the invoice here for Marcy Gymnasium Equipment of California to a certain Mr. Bruce Lee in Kowloon, Hong Kong, dated 20th of November 1972. Thursday, February the 1st. Lee avoids filming on his son's 8th birthday. Chinese people regard 8 as a lucky number. February the 1st was the same day when A Man Called Tiger was released. It is notable for Lo Wei, that is the director of his first 2 movies, having cast Jimmy Jung Yoo after Bruce rejected the chance to star. Coincidentally, Bruce AIA insurance policy, the Singaporean policy, covered a period of 5 years from 1973 to 78. So that was the start of that policy taking place, ensuring his life. Speaking of Jimmy Jung Woo, at the height of his fame in 1970s, he was the highest paid martial arts actor in the world. So I guess it's all about money, huh? Sunday, February the 4th. This was the day after the Chinese New Year began. According to his 2011 memoir, Fred Weintraub is getting increasingly frazzled about the no-show nature of Bruce's show business. Linda tells him that Bruce is tied up with other businesses, including working on the fight choreography. The man who played Han in Enter the Dragon claimed that Bruce said something to him sometime into the new year. Bruce told him that he considered acting as a side business. Directing became his main responsibility. So he wanted to act before the camera, but wanted to be behind the camera. And that's been backed up by several other guys. Thursday, February the 8th. The first day of filming on a Chinese movie set consists of lighting incense for good luck. Didn't we talk about the superstitious nature of Chinese people?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This was the same day that Fred had Klaus shoot the close-up of the praying mantis fight scene because of Bruce being absent without official leave. He was the star of the movie and he said, no, that's not the right time. So, he must have a big ego to do so. Or other problems, we do not know. Maybe he was in some kind of other businesses tied or some negotiations, if you know what I mean. Nevertheless, next week, Friday, February the 16th, Hong Kong newspaper reported something intriguing about Bruce Concorde Company. You know, Concorde was not about the airplane, but it was about the Roman goddess of harmony. Bruce had transferred most of his shares to his butler, a childhood come up short when trying to steal money. Having the press announce it would also have been a way for Bruce to see how many people suddenly start to engage Wu in a conversation. His possessions belonged to his butler. And the family of his butler was long time befriended Bruce Lee's family and his parents as well. So he was one of the trusted people. So here you see an argument of Bruce Lee and Raymond Chow. Raymond Chow was the one who insured Bruce Lee's life at the Singaporean company a few days before they started the movie.
It was Raymond Chow that did it?
Mm-hmm.
Insured him.
Yes, we have to step back.
I didn't catch that. I thought.
That's.
I see. I'm sorry. I did not recognize that. I thought.
Yeah, you see, Raymond Chow insures Bruce's life under Singaporean company.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. He was not only the associated producer, if I remember correctly, but he has also produced the second to last movie, The Way of the Dragon, and he was running the company, the sub-company Concorde Pictures or Productions together with Bruce Lee. So he was Bruce's business companion.
Oh, he was a partner in Bruce Lee's business.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and they had many problems. Bruce Lee said in 1972 that he wanted to depart from Raymond in a letter because Raymond had not the right attitude, if you know what I mean. So whatever he means, they were not on a happily basis, although Hong Kong newspaper stated that they were on happy terms, and you will see that later. And you know that this is the boss of Jackie Chan. My boss picked him up, who picked up the dead Bruce Lee. That, of course, makes him one of the main suspects in that case. Saturday, or Sabbath, better terms, February the 17th. Going by Fred Weintraub's math, after almost 3 weeks, Lee finally shows up on the same day that Low Ways, so that is the former producer of his first two movies, who happened to be a high-ranking triad, by the way. Back Alley Princess is released. The stars of that movie would show up on the set of The Game of Death, which was the uncontinued movie. One could surmise that Bruce wanted to make sure that Wei wasn't ripping him off. According to Fred in Linda's The Man Only I Knew, that the biography of his wife, Bruce walked off the set after he found out that Raymond, that's the abbreviation here, that Raymond Chow, which we have spoken about, this partner of Bruce Lee and the boss of Jackie Chan, tried to pass off Enter the Dragon as a Golden Harvest co-production instead of a Concorde one. So he wanted to have the Golden Harvest, which he was running together with certain Leonard Ho, and not with Bruce Lee, instead of a Concorde one. So he wanted, in the production business, he wanted to have Bruce Lee out of it. They must have an argument. Maybe that was the argument here, I do not know. After he returns, one of the actresses, called Anna Cabri, tells him that she wants to try some of the local delights, drugs. Mm. He tells her not to go around looking for these things, as you never know who will spike your goods. Anna agrees. According to Fred, Lee barred Ray from being on the set 2 weeks later. Raymond initially didn't want Bruce to do Enter the Dragon because he didn't want to lose him to the United States studios, speaking of Warner Brothers. However, Enter the Dragon was more than Lee's chance to be a Hollywood movie star. It was his chance to prove that he could have easily played David Carradine's Kwei Chung Kane in example A Serene Master. Raymond, eventually sympathizing with Lee's loss of face, saw that working with Warner Brothers has opened up possibilities more endless than what Shaw Brothers had. And many people thought that Bruce Lee only was an actor. Instead, he was an extremely brilliant martial artist. I remember the quote of Grand Master of American Kenpo. And Parker said Bruce was 1 in 2 billion. So this movie had made so much problems and stress. There have language barriers. Then constantly stuntmen also were belonging to triads, because the triads were running the stuntmen actually. And Bruce Lee was challenged also on the set several times. And also his accompanied karate actors and karate masters like Bob Wall, Robert Wall, also tells of a challenge. He witnessed a guy wound up by Bruce Lee. And you can imagine that if Bruce Lee would have beaten up some stuntmen which belong to the triads, that won't do no good to the connection to the triads either, huh? Yeah, so many people say that Bruce was a very capable street fighter. Yeah, because he was used to have street fights in Hong Kong before he went to the United States. Sunday, February the 18th, the day before Betty Ting Pei's 26th birthday. Betty Ting Pei is the one who has been introduced to Bruce Lee by Raymond Chow, and she was the one in which, in her apartment, Bruce Lee might have been found. He died in somebody's house, and this somebody is Betty Ting Pei. So, February the 18th, 666, the day before Betty Ting Pei's 26th birthday, so you know exactly when she was born. At 2 in the morning, capricious Capri, so Anna Capri, who had asked Bruce Lee for drugs, gets a knock on her door. She opens it and finds a box of goodies for her. No one is there. The next day on set, she sees Bruce and he gives her a big smile. Linda brings a jar of hash brownies to the set. This helps to ease the tension given that many of the extras, speaking of the stuntmen, were triads, some of whom had challenged Bruce as well as each other. In The Incomparable Fighter, the author remembered Bruce recalling how one challenger who lost against him had been stabbed to death the next day by one or more guys who may have been fans. The problem that we are facing is that we are not comparable to the Chinese mindset. Because in China it is so important not to lose face. That means not to be back down, not to lose any money also, that you don't lose face. You only have to smile your way through the top and you just don't have to lose your face. So if somebody embarrass you, then it's the ultimate loss of face. Yeah, so that means that if you have an open fight with many, many witnesses around, so that you lose face, because everybody will say, oh, that, he's not a great martial artist, he was beaten up by an actor called Bruce Lee. And this mindset we can't understand here in the West, I think, for how important it is for Chinese people not to lose face. And imagine how many people have lost face when Bruce Lee showed up. Because he said that it's not worth that you do anything, I am the best. So that they are constantly losing face. And losing money too. Bruce remarked that it's not uncommon to be killed for the slightest antagonism. These are things which I have sorted out. This is Bob Wall who talked about this challenge on the set. These are all masters, no? So he's American karate master of the middleweight, I think, 1970, 71 something. This is also another master of Hapkido. I can't can't have any name, especially of these Chinese, Taiwanese, Korean people. I'm sorry, I'm not used to that. It's not an insult, really. Yeah. So that movie has much flaws. But, for example, when Bruce Lee is clapping onto the head of somebody who's bowing down and said, never lose eye contact to the people that you want to fight. Yeah, so he's bang, clapping on the hand of somebody.
Never take your eyes off your opponent, even when you bow.
Mm-hmm.
So
even when you bow.
Yeah.
Right.
And now you compare that with the actual scene where he is bowing down without having any eye contact to his opponent. And this little scene will be very interesting in a few sessions. You won't believe your eyes when I show you something. But you see, that's the problem. You see that he's been speaking as a big philosopher, as the great martial artist, as the Shaolin priest in that movie, and he's not doing all the things that he's claiming to do, although that you should never do anything in anger, but he's just shouting and ranting all over the place in that movie. Yeah. So I'm not taking anything away.
What was that? An exhibition? We need emotional content. Try again.
I'm not taking anything away from his abilities, yeah, but it's not the philosophy that he's famous for.
I said emotional content, not anger. Now,
yeah, I said emotional contact, not anger. Yeah, now we try to prove that in the movie. At the fight of O'Hara, for example. So not anger. Look closely now. Boards don't hit back.
Don't hit back.
So I'm just sparing you the entire fight now. Although I just want to show you the immense speed of Bruce Lee. So, and that is not Bruce Lee, that is his stuntman, for example. Yeah, so it is absolutely clear that he wanted to present himself as a kind of a Superman. Because there are at least two scenes that I'm aware of that he's using a stuntman. That was one of them. Of course, these are just not usual street fights. Nobody would fight that in the street. It's just that it's a choreography, right? That's absolutely clear. But remember that he, as a kind of a Shaolin monk or a priest, that he said to his student that no anger, yeah? I don't want to see no anger. And what you just about to see, that when he's about to so-called kill somebody, that scene somebody broke his arm too because of the tremendous impact. Now also comes a scene where he's trying to have a bottle and to smash the bottles and then to attack somebody with a broken bottle, or two of them. And there also was an accident on the scene that in the several rehearsings of that scene, Bruce Lee accidentally was being cut at the hand. Yeah, and then at that moment Bruce Lee lost face. Yeah, so that the rumor has gone in Hong Kong that he wanted to kill Robert Wall. Yeah, and so they had a kind of a strange fight and settlement and all the stuff. And now, not in anger, huh? So much for the movie now that you really see that you can't rely on the things they tell you in the movie. Yeah, he tells them not to bow down, to lose eye contact, and he tells them, orders them not to act in rage. Yeah, when he's not fulfilling his own teaching. But Bruce Lee had several fights on that set here. He was really fast and strong, and of course he has beaten up everybody because he was 1 in 2 billion, as Ed Parker said. Yeah. So there are pictures of alleged fights, yeah, where somebody has been, although he has been blocked that kick from Bruce Lee, he had been thrown down. These are pictures I have to believe, of course. Yeah. He was challenged during the filming of the Way of the Dragon, as well in Italy, as well as here in Hong Kong in the Enter the Dragon. And that number one fan channel, Beardy, says that kick was not in the script because he was supposed to kick him in the ribs. He did kick him in the face, and therefore that he knocked that guy, KO'd that guy. And now imagine if that guy would come, or would be related to a triad. That would be a tremendous loss of face as well as one also who had maybe the wish to kill Bruce Lee. You have only to use common sense from now on. Yeah, and I happened to learn from a biography that he even paid the hospital costs of that guy. But nevertheless, these people lost face, and that is a tremendous thing in China or in Hong Kong. Yeah, so from that book here, Bruce Lee, the Incomparable Fighter, I have just these small inserts here or excerpts here about that the stuntman who challenged Bruce. Chances are that he got killed by one or several guys who I've never met. It's not uncommon for someone to be killed for something. Thursday, March the 1st. He wanted to sue the Sing-Hoi Stasi motion picture company after they use his image in Fist of Unicorn. This is coming from that book, Bruce Lee Alive, from Matthew Polly on page 12. Compare this, please. He wanted to sue the Stasi motion picture company, which he could not do because he died before he could sue them. The 500 VIP mourners inside the cramped funeral home fell silent as the 28-year-old widow Linda Lee entered. This is about the funeral in Hong Kong. At the front of the parlor was an altar with a movie poster-sized photo of Bruce wearing sunglasses, surrounded by a display of ribbons, flowers, and a Chinese banner saying, "A star sings in the sea of art." A star sings in the sea of art. When there is a banner at a funeral in Hong Kong which says "A star sings in the sea of art," and he wanted to sue the Sing-Hoi Stasi motion picture company, you can imagine that there is a possibility that these two events have something in common. That is the movie company, Stasi Motion Picture Company. Or Stasi Scope. And this is a movie where they have implemented some scenes of Bruce Lee and they claimed it as a Bruce Lee movie, and Bruce Lee wanted to sue them. This picture had been made by Unicorn Chan, a lifelong friend of Bruce Lee, where he have been grown up with, and they just used his name to make more profit, and he wanted to sue that company. And later on we found that banner upon his coffin in the Hong Kong funeral number 1. Funeral number 2 was in Seattle, but funeral number 1 in Hong Kong, "A star sings in the sea of arts." Star sings in the sea of arts. Star, sea. What a strange coincidence. Once again, I can't prove anything, of course. It's 50 years later, but I have my common sense. And common sense tells me that the banner of "A star sings in the sea of arts" is a little bit odd for a funeral. What would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when "A star sings in the sea of arts" on a banner upon or over on top of his coffin, yeah, when the movie company which he wanted to sue is called Stasi Motion Company. Star Sea. A star sings in the sea of arts. Oh, wow, wow, wow. So you can imagine that I think there is an involvement in the Star Sea Motion Company in his death.
I see. Get it. I get it.
Okay, and now we look at the Star Sea Motion Picture Company. Yeah, which happens to be the company where his lifelong friend called Unicorn Chan make a movie called The Fist of Unicorn, which was not a big hit, but Bruce Lee was being starred in that, or just being implemented in that without knowing him, without his knowing and his approval, so that he wanted to sue the company, which he couldn't because, he was dying before he could sue them. A star sings in the sea of arts. Look at the Star Sea Motion Company. It's only existing in the year 1973 to 75. How odd is that?
Oh, that's really strange.
So you can all imagine that this was just the front for some bigger company. Yeah, so a sub-company. Which he partially choreographed for his friend, that movie, Fists of Unicorn. When it was originally going to be titled The Unicorn Palm, his death prevented the lawsuit from happening. It speaks volumes about the budding friendship with Lee that Jackie Chan had been invited by him to appear in Fist of Unicorn. Despite what the press conference photos in May 72 imply, Michael Chan Wei Man, we talked about that in the Triad episode, Michael Chan Wei Man, 14K Triad, Miramar Hotel District did not appear in the film. Instead, he was an affiliate of Sing-Hoi. Sing-Hoi Star Motion Company.
Star Sea Motion Company.
Yes. We know that Michael Chan Wei Man was the number 2 of the Triad company Star Sing-Hoi. So we know that Star Sea, we already know, or can at least assume, that Star Sea was a Triad company. That's a Triad company. Star Sea. So once again, the banner on top of the coffin or of the funeral is called A Star Sings in the Sea of Arts. So, if that is not an indication that there is a Triad affiliation in Bruce Lee's death, at least that's my common sense. And this is only the start of all the mess which is happening quite soon in this and the next sessions. If a company is only running for 3 consecutive years, and Bruce Lee wanted to sue them, come on, do you really think that Bruce Lee didn't know that Star Sea wasn't a Triad front company? Do you really think that the Triads have no involvement whatsoever with the movies and are only limited to drug trades? I don't think so. Remember last episode with Jet Li, where his manager had been murdered and he was 1997 under the contract of Charles Hyung, a Triad member, when Charles Hyung was the husband of Betty Ting Pei, where they married after Bruce Lee died in Betty Ting Pei's apartment. He died in somebody's house. I hope that the number and the amount of people does not confuse you. Yeah, that's why I try to implement much pictures. So this picture, Fist of Unicorn, had been made by the Triad affiliate company Star Sea Motion Company. No? And there are other peoples involved in the Chinese Hong Kong Actor Guild as well. Yeah, Mr. Fan here, for example, also this is also a very prolific actor, which has also played together with Jackie Chan. He's been seen here with Bruce Lee, so he was surrounded by people who were affiliated by Triads. Yeah, so it's just, I said here, it's just running in the family. Come on, Triads have been founded 70, 80 years ago, when Bruce Lee was doing the movie. So he knew that the Triads were running the show. Or many Triads were running the show. One of the actors in Bruce Lee's son's movie was from Fist of Unicorn. Yeah, the problematic movie we just talked about. His name is Meng Hoi. Reading between the lines, it would appear that Stasi was a front for the 14K. 14K is not something that you just have to miss. 40K.
Triads.
Triad, yes. They could have helped Bruce against Loway's Sun Ye-on, that's another Triad company, connections, if it wasn't for him wanting to sue the studio for filming behind his back and implying that he had an acting role. And that makes another problem. Yeah? You see? Bruce Lee officially was on friendly terms with the Hong Kong boxing champion Michael Chan Wei-man of 1972. He was on friendly terms with him, although he was the number 2 in the 14K triad. And Michael Chan Wei-man could have helped Bruce against the former director Lo Wei, who happened to be, according to my information, a high-ranking member of the Sun Ye-on triad, so a competitive triad organization. But of course he could not help because Bruce intended to sue his triad company because of the involvement in the Fist of Unicorn movie, where he wanted to sue Stasi company, and that was a front of 14K company. Yeah. You see that he could have helped, maybe he could have helped if he wanted to, Bruce Lee, but if Bruce Lee is suing one of the sub-companies of the 14K triad called Stasi, yeah, then you've been bombarded from all fronts. You have enemies everywhere. So what's the point in suing this company then, when you would lose the backup maybe of this infamous triad stuff and people? And we have to assume that Bruce Lee never had any encounter of the triads and never knew that Michael Chan Wei-man, although he was a former prisoner and policeman, never had any encounter of the triads. And you really believe that? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Yeah, he was together with many triad-affiliated people.
Mm-hmm.
He was together with many triad-affiliated people. So once and again, one of the actors in Brandon Lee movie, so the son of Bruce Lee, was from Fist of Unicorn. His name was Meng Hoi. Reading between the lines, it would appear that Stasi was a front for the 14K triad. They could have helped Bruce against Lo Wei's Sun Ye-on connections if it wasn't for him wanting to sue the studio for filming behind his back and implying that he had an acting role. In American English, I know of a certain phrase, it's called, he burned too many bridges. Referring to Bruce Lee. Unicorn, his lifelong friend, was in 5 films with Alan Tang, most notably Love and Blood and Backstreet. These featured a gangster named Michael Chan Wei-man. Once again, back to this. Yeah, Michael Chan Wei-man, 14K triad, affiliated of Sing Hoi Stasi company. These featured a gangster named Michael Chan Wei-man, who former was a policeman, because Michael Chan Wei-man, we have talked about that in a triad session, that he said, oh, police and triads in the 70s, they were interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
While Alan was a decent martial artist, Michael was a professional fighter who won the Southeast Asia Fighting Championship for 2 consecutive years, 1970 and 71. Now think of it again. Now comes an actor, a child actor from Hong Kong who had fled Hong Kong to the United States to San Francisco in 1959 because he has beaten up somebody who was affiliated with the triad. He comes back to Hong Kong and claiming he's the best martial artist and everybody else has absolutely no clue. And his fighting method and Jeet Kune Do is surpassing everything and everybody. And then he's befriended with Michael Chan Wei-man, who was a professional fighter and was the number 2 of the 14K triad. And you think of yourself what kind of a mindset maybe Michael Chan Wei-man had because he was a professional fighter. Do you think that Michael Chan Wei-man did not want to prove his abilities against Bruce Lee? This is just an assumption, of course. But if there is somebody who was keen to challenge Bruce Lee, I think it was Michael Chan Wei-man. Although it has been presented that he was a friend of Bruce Lee. But of course, you have As a professional fighter, you have a kind of a fighting spirit. You want to prove yourself and you want to compare yourself with others. Michael Chan Wai-man, policeman / triad / actor / martial artist / friend also Bruce Lee / what else, was a friend of Unicorn whose failure to become a movie star was bound to result in journalists saying that Little Unicorn is smaller than Little Dragon. That's the title of Bruce Lee. This is also very interesting because what I did not know is that the title of Bruce Lee happened to be Little Dragon. Do you know how the head of a triad is been called? I don't think so. It's called the Dragon Head. That means that if Little Dragon does not obey, what does the Dragon Head do? Michael Chan Wai-man became a triad at 17, but his ascent to gang leader status began with a stretch in prison as a correctional officer. He helped so many convicts that they owed him favors. After 2 years and 8 months, he became a policeman. 4 years after that, he was fired when his superiors found out about his triad lifestyle. Michael then became an actor at the age of 25. His first film was Love and Blood in 1972, making it awful close to Bruce Lee's Hong Kong encounter in 1971, with 4 films until 1973. It was released 2 days after his 26th birthday. Being kicked off the force didn't make him less untouchable as a criminal. In an interview he said, that's also the interview that we are referring to, quote unquote, back then you couldn't call the police because when I collected your protection fee, the police get a cut too. In the book Fighting Spirit, page 224, there's a reference to Bruce Lee, King of Kung Fu. Felix Dennis wrote, Bruce Lee destroyed face like a leprous aftershave. Too many of those beaten by Lee, in business or in the ring, his Superman self-confidence was unbearable, his blunt candidness an insult. Then again, Lee cost many of his rivals large amount of money. Besides siphoning off much audience support from the established studios, there were numerous complaints that, under competition from the Lee films, smaller production companies floundered and were squeezed out of the race. Lee irrevocably altered not only the products of the Mandarin film industry, but also the structure of the industry itself. As the first Mandarin actor to take control of his own career, he showed the way to a more equitable share of the profits for his fellow performers. Certainly in Hong Kong in the early months of 1973, there were many people who would have been more than happy to bring down the curtain on the meteoric rise of Lee's star. You see, that is the problem. If you got such a Superman ego, then there are not many friends left, and you make enemies everywhere. For example, Jackie Chan left Hong Kong when he was 19. His father expressed a concern that even being 19 would be too old of an age to live as a legal resident in Australia through his family's connections alone. He turned 20 on April 7, 1974. In other words, Jackie was already in Australia by the time that the movie The Chivalrous Knight was released. After Bruce's death, Wu Negan, that is the butler, who had the possessions of Bruce Lee, who appeared in both of Bruce's Dragon movies alongside Robert Baker, who was the Russian mobster in the movie Fist of Fury, received suspicious payment from Raymond Chow's company, Golden Harvest. Raymond Chow knew how suspicious that it would look for them to be paid, so they were only paid after they were signed later on to act in further movies so as to make the potentially conspicuous transaction look like business instead of bribery. For Wu Negan, the butler, the perfect cover was Stoner. For Bob Baker, the perfect cover was filming in Taiwan for a Hong Kong film company. Haven't we learned last time that Taiwan was the resort of Chiang Kai-shek? With this involvement of CIA? For criminals, Taiwan is to Hong Kong what Mexico is to the United States. And I can't comment on that because I'm not an American citizen. Can you imagine what's been meant by that?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because Mexico is regarded as very corrupt. I visited Mexico back, well over 30 years ago, and the people were so friendly. I don't have the same viewpoint, but yeah, I suppose you could view it that way. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
It says for criminals. For criminals.
Yeah, maybe
Taiwan.
it's also been meant that Taiwan is an escape route for criminals in Hong Kong.
Yeah, right. Well, there's a good, that's a good way to
hideout,
think of,
yeah, so
yeah,
kind of hideout also. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that, there's a lot of talk right now about, the border, the border problems here in the States. And, they got all these different ideas they're trying to implement, like remember Trump and the wall. That's just one example, right? Right now, there's some rhetoric about buoys in Texas. I don't know much about it, really, other than, there's all kinds of things going on, Michael. All kinds. But, yeah.
Yeah. So, let's move on. When Bob Baker, officially the bodyguard for Bruce Lee, but unofficially the drug messenger and the drug courier for Bruce Lee, was paid by Gordon Harvest for his services, it was on January the 7th, 1974. The movie was released on January 23. Bob's contract gives the false impression that he was being paid on behalf of Linda Lee, being the representative of Bruce Concord Company, whose majority of the shares were being held by his butler, Wu Ngan. Andrew Morgan was the person who Raymond Chow chose to represent Gordon Harding making the payment. Bruce House at 41 Cumberland Road belonged to a company called Lu Yuan Enterprise Limited. One of the two directors of that company was Ngan. Oh, what a coincidence. The house was leased to Bruce by Gordon Harvest because he didn't see the point in purchasing a house since Hong Kong was to be a pit stop prior to Hollywood. That is one of the key informations here. During Bruce's final Hong Kong years, Gordon Harvest gave a monthly allotment of $4,000 for his family to live on. That Andrew Morgan was affiliated by Gordon Harvest. Mr. Morgan was born in a French military hospital in Morocco. I said, oh. His father served as an officer in the United States Navy. I said, wow, that's interesting, Brad. Yeah, another relation to military, huh? Must be a coincidence then. Huh? Must be a coincidence. It's all a coincidence, huh? Yeah, he was also an actor. He played the part of Father Louis, a French priest. When we have found out lately that also after the Jesuits were expelled, they were sending in French priests to China. But that must also be a coincidence then. Yeah, it's a coincidence. He was the associate producer, uncredited, of Enter the Dragon. And of course, he was uncredited for having been part of some other strange movies where we talk about later, and also about the latest or the last movie of Bruce Lee, which has been then continued with false actors, and it's unbelievable. Concord, being an extension of Gordon Harvest, meant that it was easy for Raymond Chow to give the illusion that Ngan was being paid more money than Bob on the basis that Ray wanted the house for a documentary and a film, which he did. In 1974, Raymond proved that he was being alleged by greenlighting an Angelo Mao movie called The Tournament. This was filmed from May to July and released in late September, whereas Stoner, seen above, came out in early August, the same month when Bruce's house was sold. The entire proceeds, $40,000 US to be precise, went unchallenged to Linda. After the movie Stoner, The Tournament was the second time that Mao was a pawn in Ray's chess game. As for Australian actor George Lazenby, that we will go into this extremely, George Lazenby is the 007 James Bond actor in the year 1969, that infamous Manson year. He would be, or the moon landing, he would be duped further 2 years down the line by acting in The Queen's Ransom. As you will later find out, the movie is a different kind of blues exploitation, which means that they have made all the kinds of lookalike actors. So Bob Baker, as his officially stunt Bob Baker, as his officially bodyguard and unofficially drug courier, was paid $10,000 on behalf of Raymond Shaw's company on January the 7th, 1974. Whereas his butler, Woonagan, was paid $55,000, which is a big amount of money in 1973 standard. Or 1974 standard. Sure, his butler had 2 mouths to feed, but not that many. He was managing just fine living in England before Bruce came along and invited him to have both families live with each other in Hong Kong in 1971. If Bob and Nguyen were just paid for their pre-mortem services, then it wouldn't be nothing more than a severance payment. However, what makes them look guilty is that they didn't even escort Linda back to Seattle. This implies an avoidance of DNA analysis and questioning. I can't say anything about that because I don't know the relation of that quote. Nguyen would have motive to kill Bruce, that is butler, since he was probably tired of being his guinea pig to try choreography. The most humiliating example is Bruce using him as a stand to see how high he could raise his leg during his bedroom scene with Bob Wall in Enter the Dragon. Bruce should have stuck to using the chair as can be seen in one of the stills. Yeah? A mystery of Bruce Lee's missing millions or missing money, that is his butler Wu Nguyen. There are many people who would have a motive. Yeah? You see, when his butler served as an actor or as a guinea pig, yeah, for the movies here, for many movies, yeah, the last 2 at least, or the Dragon movies, yeah. So it was always his butler who has to stand there. And that is in 1970s after his famous back injury. Yeah, you see that. Can you think of somebody with a back injury who's doing that kind of a stunt? Yeah, this is 5.5 feet high in the air. Come on. This is just the story here that you have to think about, that these are just actors and all actors are liars. And this is, once again, this is the famous butler of Bruce Lee, is called Wu Nguyen. Yeah, and he's serving here as on the receiving end of Bruce Lee's famous sidekick. This is not a regular actor. This is somebody who was then just helping out on the set. Yeah, this is also his butler, and he got a tremendous amount of money after Bruce Lee's demise. And Bruce Lee transferred his possessions to him a few months before his demise. Seeing as how Bruce died on July the 20th, 1973, it's suspect that Linda sent a letter to Wu Nguyen 2 years later on July the 21st, where she legally stipulated that he pay back the money at a rate of 8% per year. Bruce had philosophized that you should either learn to endure or hire a bodyguard. According to Linda, Bob Baker was not only Bruce's bodyguard but his drug courier. He also smuggled guns for Bruce's safety when guns were totally illegal in Hong Kong. It's interesting when we step back to 1966, which we did in last episode with Kato, yeah, the all-wise guy, or one of the 10 most favorite surnames in Japan. When we look to the episode 13, you know that the card in tarot, the card of death, or Saturn with the sickle. In that 13, The Secret of Sally Bell, Val Kilmer said they got a tip that 2 million in narcotics was leaving Hong Kong destination USA, which is extremely interesting because you can imagine that USA supply of drugs were coming in also from Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is a harbor and is quite close to the United States. And we know that in San Francisco, in Chinatown, there are also triads. And there are also people who are dealing with drugs. Interesting, when they talk about this destination, Hong Kong, USA, in the Green Hornet series, which actually made Bruce Lee public, in the American audience in 1966, they talk about 2 million in narcotics leaving Hong Kong, destination USA. So that was not out of the ordinary. That was, I think it was quite usual.
Yep.
And that's what many people do not know, that the CIA is handling the drug trade out of the Golden Crescent, out of Afghanistan, then Pakistan and all the stuff. That's also one reason for for just the war from Mr. Bush after 9/11. Yeah, the CIA controls the drug trade from the Golden Crescent to the United States, of course. They are only forbidding any trade outside these their activities. So they don't want to be in competition with any private guys, with any drug rings from Ecuador or what else. Yeah, but I think it's totally incorrectly displayed on the television. That's why I inserted here one famous picture of Miami Vice, where two cops, and usually this television show should be named MTV Cops, I think that was the original name, but then they switched to Miami Vice when they are against drug dealers. But this is just also a fairy tale and of course entertainment to get the spotlight away from the CIA, which is doing all these drug businesses around the world, especially from the Golden Triangle, Persia or Iran, and then Afghanistan and Pakistan. Yeah, so the Vice or the DEA, of course, is not looking for something that official things or military bases would smuggle in the country, but only of private guys who then just in competition to the government. Yeah, so Miami Vice is just a fairy tale for adults, of course. Yeah, blowing up here a fake Ferrari, which was actually a Corvette. Yeah, and Ferrari, they were outraged and said, you have to destroy the car because it's just it's not a real Ferrari and blah 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 blah. That is the same Ferrari they displayed, by the way, in that episode Brother's Keeper, which is also in Brother's Keeper is also a name in the Scottish Rite of Freemasons, as well as an excerpt of the Bible. And in that episode, this infamous or famous Chevrolet Corvette disguised as a Ferrari Daytona was being used when they have inserted that famous Phil Collins song In the Air Tonight. And that's the destruction of that car. And later on, of course, they were handed over a new car. And this is here Don Johnson playing a Sonny Crockett with his, I think, Ray-Ban sunglasses and seeing the destruction of his beloved Ferrari, which was not a Ferrari. Yeah. And afterwards, he was being granted a Ferrari Testarossa, so a red hat. That's the story of Miami Vice. So Miami Vice serves as a distraction also to get the spotlight away from the CIA doing all the drug trafficking from the Golden Triangle. Yeah. Let's get back. Jim Kelly, himself a karate grandmaster, and he was also playing Williams in the Enter the Dragon, said Bruce Lee was the greatest martial artist that ever lived. And even Jim Kelly knew that Bruce was packing heat. It's rather strange for a bodyguard to be paid less than a butler whose figure isn't a tidy sum like 50 or 60 grand. After these shifty out of bank transactions, Linda begged Raymond to give her some money. This, along with the house sales, suggests that they were allies instead of arch enemies. Making herself out to be a courtroom antagonist was a perfect cover. There is a Chinese proverb that philosophizes, quote unquote, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. When you then know that in the last years, out of a sudden on a flea market, there happened to be discovered some drug letters from Bob Baker, happened to be officially his bodyguard, but unofficially also his drug dealer, then you have to question why they have appeared on the flea market. Yeah, I think that because the official owner of that stuff could not make money officially, because then he had been sued by the Bruce Lee estate, being a Linda and Shannon Lee. Yeah, so they had to do it anonymously. So on a flea market, it reminds me on a fish market with some viruses lately. Yeah, so nobody's to blame, and it happened out of the blue. Yeah, and his attitude maybe could also be explained of the use or misuse of drugs. Yeah, he said here in one letter, and you have to be aware that also everything can be faked. So, but if we take that as granted, he said, Bob, air me some Coca-Cola. Yeah, do it the way that you and I sincerely feel. Some Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, of course, is the allegation, or Coca-Cola, of course, is on terms is cocaine. Yeah, there is Coca-Cola coming from. Yeah, cocaine, which is very interesting because cocaine is a stimulating drug synthesized in 1855, mostly produced in Jesuit-controlled Colombia, hence the name Columbia Pictures, and mostly used in UK, Spain, US, Australia, Uruguay, Brazil, Chile, Netherlands. CC 33, cocaine. Cain, the child of Lucifer in the occult. Cocaine. You're in the company of Cain. Congratulations. Remember when David Carradine, who happened to be on peyote or some other drugs, was running around naked in Laurel Canyon, officially, and then he was playing Kwang Chai Caine? Interesting, huh? What a coincidence. So, the history of cocaine trade, the indigenous people of South America chewed on cocoa leaves for a stimulating effect. So, and then, of course, it must be a German, huh? He synthesizes cocaine. Yeah. Also, Sigmund Freud, our infamous psychology guy, uses cocaine, and Freud writes Uber Coca. And you know how else was doing cocaine officially? Oh yeah, that is here. A Jesuit, Arthur Conan Doyle, let his character Sherlock Holmes inject cocaine. So many people claiming themselves to be smart as Sherlock Holmes would also use cocaine, because their role model, Sherlock Holmes, although being a fictional character, also did misuse cocaine. 1886, founding of Coca-Cola, CC 33 centiliter 666 logo in Atlanta on the 33-degree parallel. So many coincidences. So many coincidences. In Bolivia, the Jesuits, we are speaking of about 1950s, cocaine is used as a recreational drug in Cuba. Or did we learn in that session that heroin also was being used by the German pharmaceutical company called Bayer as a recreational drug, heroin? Yeah. In 1970, in Bolivia, the Jesuits create a global cocaine industry through Roberto Suarez Gomez, who recruits cocoa traders for his company La Corporation. Bolivian dictator Hugo Banzer, the World Anti-Communist League, the Unification Church, Jesuit-trained accountant Raymond Milenian Rodriguez, and Jesuit Fidel Castro. And it happened to remind me at one of Bruce Lee's movie. One of Bruce Lee's movie is called The Chinese Connection, which in Germany is Death Wishes from Shanghai, so from China, Death Wishes of China. But the American title, or the English title, is The Chinese Connection, which you can see here. Which is very interesting, because then if you would see that is a picture, a movie coming from 1972, The Chinese Connection. Please compare that with a very prominent Hollywood movie, The French Connection. The French Connection was a scheme through which heroin, the hero in you, was smuggled from Indochina through Turkey to France and then to the United States and Canada, sometimes through Cuba. Oh, hello, Fidel Castro, Jesuit. The operation started in the 1930s, reached its peak in the 60s, and was dismantled in the 70s. Are you reminded of the hippie movement and the anti-war movement here, maybe? It was responsible for providing the vast majority of the heroin used in the United States at the time. The operation was headed by Corsicans, so Italian, Antoine Giarini and Paul Carbone. It also involved Auguste Ricord, etc., and Salvatore, etc. The French Connection is a 1971 American neo-noir action thriller film starring Gene Hackman, Roy Scheider, and Fernando Rey. 1971. And the title of Bruce Lee's Chinese Connection is 1972. So how close would you like to get? Of course, the Chinese Connection must have something to do with drugs. 1972. That's another hint that there are so many drugs involved in Bruce Lee's movie. In the first movie, The Big Boss, it's about drug smuggling in ice blocks. The second movie is called again after The French Connection, The Chinese Connection. And the fourth film, Enter the Dragon, is about Han on an island where he's using heroin-addicted slaves. Come on. So I have so many references here in Enter the Dragon, for example, about heroin trade. Yeah, so therefore you see all these drug addicts here on that scene.
Help me! I'm Sharon, please! I am California! Help me! Please help me! Mr. Come back, please! You have to come back, please! Help me! Help me! Shut up! Please! Quiet! Shut up!
So at the 44 Academy Awards, the film earned 8 nominations and won 5 for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, Best Film Editing, Best Adapted Screenplay. So what do you think that they thought about that, setting up a kind of a Chinese version about that? Yeah, the French connection and the Chinese connection, that maybe people were interested in, oh, that's a Chinese movie about some drugs. Yeah, interesting, huh? So in the 70s, they were promoting as drugs as well as the 60s. Yeah, in 1972, you got Superfly from Warner Brothers, the same company who did Enter the Dragon for Bruce Lee. Glorification of cocaine dealer lifestyle as rebellion against the white establishment. Superfly. Yeah, of course with a supercar. Maybe that is a Cadillac. I do not know. So many people are promoting drugs. 1977, New York, United States of America, Program Disco by Ian Schrager and Steve Rubell. Yeah, they, of course, they're having a moon with a spoon. Yeah, you can think of that as the spoon serves not to hand over sleeping pills or sugar, but cocaine. And if I remember correctly, in Studio 54, they were using amphetamines or so, being blown through the air vents or through that climate ventilation in that studio to help people to feel great or feel like a hero. Premium guests. Club founders Steve Rubell and Ian Schrager, we're speaking of 77 here, provided premium guests with premium cocaine and spent up to $100,000 on a single night's party. This is just a claim, but you see that I think the symbol tells it all, huh? Yeah, so cocaine, sniffing cocaine, this is just an elite symbol because it must be very, very, very expensive. More expensive as grass or what else, or smoking or alcohol, yeah, which is commonly for the average man. But cocaine is just that it's expensive, and therefore it's been very precious. And I think that is just only a very tiny amount of it then needed. Yeah. So DEA controlled by the Jesuits. Yeah. Of course, I'm only quoting a website. No, don't get me wrong. I'm accusing nobody. I'm just quoting a website here. Yeah, cocaine overdose of David Kennedy, and this is no coincidence. I told you that cocaine, of course, you know that is a drug for very wealthy people, and David Kennedy happened to be from the Kennedy clan. So, website claims that Skull and Bones controls the opium trade. You know who's Skull and Bones? Yeah, at least its son. Yeah, or what was his officially position there? It's so secret that we can't talk about it. What's the guy? John Kerry?
George W. Bush?
Yeah, his opponent in the election.
Oh yeah, John Kerry, sure.
John Kerry, it was. It's somebody. Or George W. Bush said, "Oh, it's so secret you can't talk about it." No, it's just Skull and Bones. Huh? Yeah.
They're both Skull and Bones, yeah.
Yeah, they're both Skull and Bones. Yes, correct. Yeah, and plays the role. Yeah, George W. Bush, his father.
Was H.W. Bush? Was he Bush Senior? Was he Skull and Bones as well? I forget.
Yeah, they're all
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think so, yes. And he was also CIA, huh? He was the head of the CIA, and he was
Knight of
part
Malta.
of the Dallas staff for the CIA when John F. Kennedy was being killed. Yeah, there is a letter which says that, oh yeah, there's a certain George W. Bush of the CIA, that he was in Dallas at that very day. Yeah, and later he became the head of the CIA. Come on, so he has to have some involvement because the CIA backed up all these operations, but never done by the mafia. Yeah, we have talked about that much time. And you think of that is the guy who is running the CIA is a member of Skull and Bones. And he's not only Skull and Bones; he has to be a Knight of Malta as well. Come on. It's not that the only one he's just only a member of Skull and Bones. No, he's a member of several orders and several secret societies. And he plays the role of Savior, or Francis Xavier maybe, yeah, in the war of drugs of Jesuit William Bennett. So these are all just agendas. So they have their people pro and contra. So they control both sides. Yeah. So next one is Twin Peaks. Cheryl Lee as Laura Palmer, Twin Peaks, addicted to cocaine. Yeah, overdose. This is just Laura Palmer, the victim of Twin Peaks. Then River Phoenix, officially overdose, and many other people too. Ike and Tina Turner, so that Ike Turner from overdose, and what else? Cocaine. I have read that on an occult page has been seen as the magic elixir of life. So we are then in alchemy and creating the homunculus, the everlasting life, or the first lie on the in the Bible from the serpent, which was?
Yeah, well, we call it what is that? Cocaine, the magic elixir of life. That would be a what did they call that again? Snake oil salesman?
No, but you know that the real first lie of the serpent to Eve.
Oh, sure. You will not surely die.
Yeah, the everlasting life and very happy life in the satanic world. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that was my small excerpt into cocaine, actually.
Well, all you have to do is change life to death, and then it makes sense. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The magic elixir of death.
It's a twisted world.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So Bruce is here with the wife of Lo Wei, also the director of both The Big Boss and The Chinese Connection, who was one of the film producers, and he happened to be a high-ranking member, if not the boss, of the Sun Yee-Ot Triad. Yeah, you see, even in the very first Hong Kong big movie picture, he was playing as an actor in a movie of the Triads. And you don't think that there is any Triad connection and all that stuff? Oh, then you are very, very, very...
very wrong.
Very wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
1975, the first day of the year, is when Lo Wei's, we're talking about the director of the first two Bruce Lee movies in Hong Kong, for Golden Harvest is released. He started his own production company after he had learned that Raymond Chow was having an affair with his wife. Did that surprise you? Does that surprise you that somebody can be married in China or in Hong Kong and have some mistresses? The fact that Raymond didn't get killed off can be explained by one of three things. Ray's background as an evasive spy paid off. Oh, what do I read here? Yeah? The former colleague of Mr. Bruce Lee was an evasive spy. His backers are more intimidated than Lo armies of triads. His backers are more intimidating than Lo's armies of triads, or there was a face-saving partner swap arrangement. After Lo left the company in late 1974, Jackie Chan returned to Golden Harvest, Raymond Chow, to act in All in the Family. It was released in February. Maybe Lo Wei was more intimidating than Ray after all, considering that Lo, a crime figure, speaking of the director of the two first Bruce Lee movies, has long been held responsible for the death of Bruce. The timing of Jackie's return is more than a tad suspicious. And it goes on and on and on and on. He was on very good terms with Bruce Lee, by the way. Although that's a quote of his biographies, and he is posing in front of an obelisk. It's called the Eiffelturm, the Eiffel Tower in Paris. And what I have left out in the conspiracy series is that there are the names of certain Freemasons engraved in that Eiffel Tower. I really have I've forgotten. I said, how can I forget this? Eiffel Tower names Freemason. Freemason is a Protestant cult, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is just the other side of the knighthoods of the Roman Catholic Church. So with these Protestant Freemason stuff and Rosicrucian and all the stuff, they control all these important people of the so-called Protestant countries.
Well, you have the Scottish Rite and the York Rite, essentially, is what you're saying. If you look at that pyramid or that, that masonry, famous masonry article with the 33 steps of Scottish Rite on one side, and then these plateaus on the other side of the York Rite. It's the structure of Freemasonry.
Yeah, that's what just an excerpt on cocaine here, and Jackie Chan is into it. He has much problems with triads. 76, he's signed to Low Waist Company. If you can't beat them, join them. Yeah. You can't imagine. You see that I can only recommend that website here of Popcard Master. It's just a treasure of information. Yeah. You see, Betty Ting Pei, that in which her apartment was Bruce Lee officially was been found dead, and unconscious, of course. He arrived dead on arrival. Sure, it happened on the way of the ambulance. Oh yeah. Betty Ting Pei marries the son of the Sun Yi-on triad leader, in spite of the fact that, in theory, she should have married Michael Chan Wei-man, who was a member of Sun Yi-on, but was supposed to be on good terms with Bruce, but it would not help because he was the number 2 of the 14K trial. You see that everywhere you look around in the Hong Kong business, you have triads. You have Lo Wei triad, you have Michael Chan Wei-man triad, you have, what's the name, Charles Jung, everywhere triads. Yeah? Then you have a triad actor, Ko Hong-seung, appears in the movie and he's member of the Taiwanese mafia. Jimmy Wan-young, one-armed sportsman star, died at 79. Yeah, you can be a part of the Catholic Church or what church ever and be a member of the mafia as well. It's the same as the triads and police. It's interchangeable.
Yes.
I don't find that very funny, but I'm just sometimes desperate because you can't go into every famous actor, actress, director, what else, and you see all the same connections then.
Yes.
Yeah, so everybody who is then the bright and best paid martial arts star or actor or director or what else has to be ties to the underworld. Because that is a controlled business. Obviously, the movie is as controlled as drug trade. And what are movies else than drugs for the average people? Wang was the biggest star of Asian martial arts cinema until the emergence of Bruce Lee. Yeah, so once again, somebody who has lost money due to the appearance or reappearance, actually, of Bruce Lee in Hong Kong. Yeah, so there were all the people were there having a hard time when Bruce Lee showed up because he was stealing money. In their view, of course. Or they were losing face, which is almost the same problematical, or the same problem. Wang Yu was well known for his volatile personality and ties to organized crime off screen. Yeah? We're talking about the biggest star of Asian martial arts cinema until the emergence of Bruce Lee. And what do you read there? You read there that he has ties to organized crime off screen. Oh, of course, but you believe that Bruce Lee is the exception of the rule? If he was, then that would be a threat to anybody because, of course, the triad wanted to collect money, protection money, or what else from everybody. And if he was the exception of the rule, then he would serve as a role model for other actresses, actresses, directors, and production companies. And can you imagine that effect? Do you think that the mob, or whatever you would like to call them, would just say, okay, yeah, now our business is over because of Bruce Lee? Pfft, come on. He was a suspected member of the Bamboo Union triad and was charged in the 1981 murder of the several 4 Seas gang members. Oh, I said another Seas gang. Though he was acquitted due to a lack of evidence. Yeah, and you can look around in Japan. They are called Yakuza. Yeah, what you call the triads in Hong Kong, China, it's called the Yakuza in Japan, although there have to be minor differences. And the Mafia or Cosa Nostra in Italy. And you see, it's... the English equivalent for the term Yakuza is gangster, meaning an individual involved in a mafia-like criminal organization.
Yeah, all roads lead to Rome.
That in the end, yes.
They do.
Yes.
Just different names.
Different names.
Different traditions, so to speak.
Yes. It's like French Connection or Chinese Connection, but there is a connection. Huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's the connection.
Yes. The Yakuza are known for their strict codes of conduct, their organized fiefdom, whatever that is, nature, and several unconventional ritual practices such as yubi sutme, or amputation of the left little finger.
What?
Members are often portrayed with males with heavily tattooed bodies and wearing fundoshi, sometimes with a kimono or in more recent years a Western-style sharp suit covering them. This group is still regarded as being among the most sophisticated and wealthy criminal organization. Yeah, what do you think their wealth is coming from? I think mainly in drug trade and, of course,
Sure.
movies. And every time you see a Japanese being portrayed in a Bruce Lee's movies, he's the antagonist. He's the opponent. Yeah, it is in a Japanese karate school in Fist of Fury, pardon me, the Chinese connection, yeah, and as well as here in, at the end of the Fist of Fury, Chinese connection, yeah, the Japanese master here with a sword. And there are many other references too. But what's striking me is here these tattooed bodies, yeah, being a symbol of gangsters in Japan. And nowadays we're speaking of 2023, so 50 years later, when Bruce Lee has died, yeah, all the world has been tattooed. So it is not a distinction symbol among gangsters anymore. When I was growing up in the 1970s, we had 3 groups of people who were being tattooed. Yeah, we were famous or infamous for being tattooed. The first were criminals in jail. The second were seamen. Yeah, so people who had then tattooed the name of their loved ones on their left or right forearm or what else. And the third one would be Japanese gangsters, Yakuza. And nowadays, you have in every city here, at least in Germany, you have tattoos and tattoo shops and tattoos everywhere. Everywhere. Everywhere
It's the
you
same
look.
thing here in the States.
Yes.
Same thing. No different than here.
Everything will get worse, of course, yeah? So, in former times, it was just a distinction ritual or a distinction symbol among criminals, gangsters, or, yeah, what else? These tough guys, yeah? You see, this is just from the front. And now look at his tattoo. He's tattooed all over the place in the back. And we're talking about 1982. We're talking not about 2022. Or these people, they are being tattooed like the Yakuza in Japan. So they have heavily tattoos. And he was the one who was telling us that, oh, nobody dared to challenge Bruce. Sure. What's interesting is that Jackie Chan served as a stuntman for the final flight or the final defeat of the so-called Japanese master. So the guy who was falling here is not the Japanese actor, but actually Jackie Chan. And these two were befriended. And so it's no wonder that Jackie Chan also had to, according to the source, Paparazzi Master had to flee then Hong Kong. Yeah. So, when a famous actor called Wang and a group of friends were eating at the Tianshu restaurant in 1981, they were ambushed by members of the Four Seas Triad in an apparent assassination attempt. Wang survived, but 3 of his friends were killed. Wang had previously had a falling out with the Four Seas after losing 1 million yuan at a casino owned by Four Seas leader Li Weimin, and his life has been repeatedly threatened. Wang reached out to Bamboo Union leader, another triad, Chen Xinli, requesting protection. Following a meeting between Bamboo Union leadership and Wang, the union carried a string of retaliatory killings against these would-be assassins. This is Wikipedia, by the way. I'm not making anything up. At least this is just official information or disinformation. But I don't think that you should underestimate all these societies. Yeah, we're speaking here of Taiwanese. So in Taiwan, there is also heavy involvement in the movie industry by triads. Yeah, that's the Four Seas gang. Yeah, not Star Seas this time, but Four Seas. What a coincidence. A triad society based in Taiwan. Yeah, estimated 10,000 in Taiwan. And its members, look very carefully, have extended their influence to cities in the southern region of California. I have to ask, what cities could this be? The southern region of California, I would guess it could be starting with San Francisco. Its American constituents are a branch of the original Taiwan society. Four Seas gang is active in alien smuggling in Southern California, whoever that would be. Their territories are mainly Los Angeles and Santa Ana, California. They use the color gray for the individual clothing of the gang. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought immediately when you said Southern California was Los Angeles, but you says
maybe also
San Francisco, yeah.
Yeah, because San Francisco happened to have a
yeah,
big,
but that's more mid,
okay.
Kind of closer to the northern side.
Okay,
thanks
for correcting me. Yeah, I'm not so familiar with the West Coast.
I had visited San Francisco, and not terribly that long ago, I guess. But yeah, it's been a while. 2008. Mm-hmm. That's when I was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Four Seas gang. Yeah, so it's like a star sank in the sea of art.
Yeah, right.
Star Sea Company, yeah, which Bruce Lee could not sue anymore because you can't do anything when you're dead. A star sank in the sea of art. There are even poets. Speaking of mobsters, one such guy who appeared in the movies was Hong Yi-sang. He had worked on 6 films with Chan Wei-man. This is our friend from the Triad, which happened to be a professional fighter, before he died in a car crash circa 1995. He had acted in, it can be seen in The Last Days of Bruce Lee, so another ripoff, when they show the Star Sea staff. You see, it will go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Yeah. What I would like to point out that Bruce Lee had competition, and Bruce Lee was having influence of several triads. At least Sun Yeon triad from Lo Wei, and 14K from Star Seas front Michael Chan Wei-man. Jackie Chan starred in To Kill with Intrigue. Like the Killer Meteors before it, this was made in South Korea because it was safer there. Since Jackie was on the run, you have to wonder how much help that Jimmy was during the making of the Killer Meteors. For those of you who are having a hard time swallowing the bitter pill of Jackie fleeing to South Korea, you should remember that in 1998 his autobiography contained a 1979 anecdote of himself escaping from Lo Wei, the director of the 2 first Bruce Lee Hong Kong movies, being the would-be director of Fearless Hyena. Which is very interesting. 1977 was the year when Golden Harvest finally completed the Game of Death. One of the characters has a forename, which was Bruce's nickname for James Coburn. Addicting to the seediness is that one of the actors from the original shoot, Chi Yuan, and this is a video which came up a few days ago with, for the first time since 50 years, they have found new footage of Game of Death. Yeah, sorry. It was planned before. Yeah, so everything is planned before, also when they release what. Yeah, you can't tell me that they found 50 years later they found something which people around the world would eager to have. Yeah, so it's just all a big commercial thing going on, and not only that. So this actor here with the long lock, it's called the lock fight. It adding to the seediness is that one of the actors from the original shoot, Chi Yuen, died of the same cause, cerebral edema, as Bruce. Even the age is exactly the same, 32 years and 8 months. I suspect that Raymond Chow had him killed off so that he was justified in not properly completing the movie. That is just only me reading a text here. Had the press not found out that Bruce's corpse was located at Betty's apartment, the official story would have been that he relied too much on electric muscle stimulation, therefore foreshadowing his publicized fate of his co-star. Chi Yuen, the guy with the lock, died on November 16. So I'm sorry that I don't go according to the timeline at the moment. It's just an excerpt here of trials and the involvement of Jackie Chan, for example. I have another interview of a very prolific historian of Bruce Lee called Bay Logan. He's very affiliated to the Hong Kong movie business because he's a part of it. He has made an interview with that Chan Wei-man Triad 14K character. He said, "I saw a film of you and Bruce together at the press conference for that film. Did you know Chi Yuan, the kickboxer who worked with Bruce on the original Game of Death?" This is relating to that picture here, which has been released now as a special box for the 50th anniversary death of Bruce Lee. And let's look up what will be coming next. So Chan Wei-man, the gangster policeman who was an actor and he was on friendly terms with Bruce, he said and replied, "Yes, only he wasn't a kickboxer, he was a karate man. He died not too long after Bruce of a brain tumor. I went to visit Bruce when they were preparing the sets for Game of Death, but not when they were filming." So I'm sorry, but we can't show you the movie link because the movie is not there. But in both cases of both actors of Game of Death, a brain edema was found to be the cause of the death. A brain edema causes herniation-related death and several neurological defects. Although the mechanism of edema formation are not fully determined, one previous study indicated that erythrocyte lysis and hemoglobin toxicity contribute to delayed brain edema. It refers to the process where red blood cells rupture and their contents leak out into the bloodstream. It's a sudden bleeding into the tissues of the brain or its ventricles or into both. Fever is also common. Causes include brain trauma. That's what I found very interesting because look at this. From the Wikipedia, traumatic brain injury, it claims a traumatic brain injury, TBI, also known as an intracranial injury, is an injury to the brain caused by an external force. I said, that is very interesting. Can you imagine of some external force causing a traumatic brain injury? Yeah, an accident, for example, huh? If you're just hitting a target in your car and you have no seat belts on and you're hitting the A-pillar or what, that could also cause a brain injury caused by an external force. It's just one possibility. The biggest risk...
traumatic, all right.
Huh?
That would be traumatic, all right.
Yeah. The biggest risk factors for spontaneous bleeding are high blood pressure and amyloidosis. Remember, this is the official cause of Bruce Lee. It's a brain injury or just a brain edema. Other risk factors include alcoholism, low cholesterol, blood thinners, and cocaine use. That is why there is a special book, not known to many, which is about the death of Bruce Lee. And going on to all these official available documents, the author is very heavily relying on the fact that Bruce Lee used cocaine and therefore could have been that the cause of his brain edema. Let's dive further into this. Diagnosis is typically by CT scan. Other conditions may present similarly, include ischemic stroke. And I have another idea for that. You know that the official medical reason for the demise of Bruce Lee was aspirin or meprobamate, found in combined as a combined medicine in the trade name of Equagesic. The Equagesic drug was credited with the sudden death of actor Bruce Lee in 1973. Lee suffered a fatal hypersensitivity reaction to one of the prescription drug's ingredients while working in Hong Kong. This is the official rule, death by misadventure. But Franklin Roosevelt, Freemason, the 32nd President of the United States, died from cerebral hemorrhage in 1945, and so did Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin in 1953. And that made me a little bit suspicious. I said there are other reasons too beside of cocaine. And I found something which is not very commonly known, I think. It's from an article from New York Times from the 12th of June 1983. It's called Boxing and the Brain. And that's an old article here, and I happen to save the text at least. Yeah. Gelatinous mass suspended in cerebrospinal fluid and floating inside a hard bony skull, the human brain is particularly vulnerable to the root physics of the sweet science. In 13 rounds, 39 minutes, the 23-year-old Doug Koo Kim had fulfilled the boxer's ultimate fantasy. He had punched his way to the top. His valiant fight to take Ray Mancini's World Boxing Association Lightweight Championship had made him famous and put him in line for some big money. But fate put an eerie spin on the announcer's acknowledgement of Kim's achievement, and in the end, the rice farmer's son was lifted out of obscurity on a stretcher. 4 days later, on November the 17th, 1982, he died of cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. How's that? Everybody talks about, yeah, that is a medicine, that is an allergic reaction, and what else? The swelling of the brain can also be caused by external factors like an accident or an hit on the head.
Stop hitting me!
What?
Stop hitting me!
Stop hitting you?
Yes.
Well, what did you come in here for?
I came here to complain.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's next door. It's being hit on the head lessons in here.
What a stupid concept.
The majority of all ring deaths result from brain trauma, and any real attempt to cut back on injury and death in the ring will have to focus in large parts of the effect of boxing on the brain. These effects fall into two categories, short-term and long-term. The short-term effects range from mild concussion to cerebral hemorrhage and death. The long-term effects involve a clinical diagnosed condition called dementia pugilistica, also known as chronic encephalopathy of boxers and best known to the punch-drunk syndrome. They include, among other symptoms, memory loss, speech impairment, unsteady gait, tremors, and episodes of confusion and depression. These two categories of brain dysfunctions, while clinically distinct from each other, have one major factor in common: the punch on the head or in the head. When a healthy alert boxer comes out of his corner and starts on a fight, several different parts of his brain are actively engaged. First of all, his reticular formation, the core of his brainstem, is functioning with other components of the brainstem, and I think that I spare you all the details here. The fighter is awake, he can move, he is breathing, his heart is beating, and he can process sensory information from other parts of the central nervous system. Yeah. A punch in the head shakes and shocks the brain. See illustration. It interferes with the inherent delicate and orderly processes. The top 10 ranked heavyweight contenders in 1981, for instance, had 149 knockouts listed among their 206 ring victories, according to the 1982 ring record book. In his last fight, Doug Koo Kim appeared to process through several stages of concussion. Though the first 7 rounds, though he took a heavy pounding, he gave as good as he got, fighting in a bruised head-to-head style remarkably similar to his opponents. Then in the 8th, Kim's style suddenly changed. For the first time in the fight, he slowed the pace, loosening up and dancing a bit. Though he returned to the attack several times through the remaining rounds, it now seems that Kim may well have begun experiences the slowed reflexes and coordination problems characteristic of the second syndrome. Yeah, BBC News, the fight that changed boxing forever. That is Doug Koo Kim. He died at the age of 23. You can normally think that a 23-year-old boxer must be healthy. Though it was apparently 2 punches in the 14th that killed him, King took his worst beating in the 13th as Mancini hit him some 40 times in a row. So that was my find, and I said, my, what a fate, but it serves a purpose here. Yeah, he was the World Boxing Associated's #1 contender. 39 punches, says Wikipedia, but had little effect. Yeah, when I punched somebody 39 times on the head, I think it will have an effect. Minutes after the fight was over, Kim collapsed into a coma and was removed from the Caesars Palace Arena on a stretcher and taken to the Desert Springs Hospital. At the hospital, he was found to have a subdural hematomia consisting of 100 cubic centimeters of blood in his skull. Emergency surgery was performed to try to save him, but Kim died 5 days later at November, also the 18th. The neurosurgeon said that it was caused by 1 punch. I know that it had been claimed that Bruce Lee had no bruises. Yeah. But still, yeah. Why does nobody talk about the problem of cerebral edema when it comes down to hitting on the head or accidents or that of a kind? Yeah. That left me very suspicious. So you see, there are many possibilities in the case of Bruce Lee. And we have only been talked about January and February now, and we have made an excerpt on the triads and on Jackie Chan and on this cerebral edema. And I'm sorry that I can't do that 100% according to the script or according to the chronological timeline. I promise to try this next time. As I said, that you are now detectives in that case, and you see that there are many more possibilities that anybody would guess by a first glance at the Wikipedia article. And remember that this is a satanic media world. The media has been controlled through decades and centuries. They are not giving you the real explanation of the things, so you have to dig deeper and deeper into this, and the deeper you get, you see it's all about the mammon, it's all about money, it's all about fame, it's all about being the world's best boxer, the world's best martial artist, it's all about entertainment industry, it's about making money. These movies are just to entertain people, to just kill time. It's just killing time, and I'm trying not to kill time, but I'm just doing this once and for all, only once, and after that I don't want to go into all the satanic stuff again. But if you really see that people are being hit on the head 39 times, maybe not very hard, but in a decent amount, these people can also kill. So there's another possibility, and also one thing that everybody has to bear in mind, that also the diseases that some people can have, for example, Muhammad Ali was been diagnosed with Parkinson, can also relate to his boxing career. So what is that for a price to pay for all these people? Just to beat up another guy in the ring and to have fame and to have money and girls and what else? That is a satanic world. Every boxer, every martial artist who does that professionally and beating up people is an anti-Christian spirit. In a Christian way, in the Bible, we speak about that it is not polite to try to hit somebody unconscious. Yeah? It's just for the money. It has nothing to do with love thy neighbor as yourself when you are in the ring. When you do that professionally, as Michael Chan Wei Man in 1970-71 in Hong Kong, as well as here that famous boxer Kim, which happened to die 5 days later because of 100 milliliters of blood in his brain. So, this is a satanic world where people, they spend money on their entertainment to see other people being beaten up. Yeah, this is a world. This is a world when every time I see boxing, I'm just shaking my head and I admire the athleticism of these guys. Yes, of course. But also I can admire the skills of the people, how fast they are or what else. Yeah. But in the end, it's a satanic mess because you are hurting somebody else, including hurting somebody permanently on a permanent basis, even with the threat of that the other guy has some severe disabilities his entire life until the face and the face of killing somebody. So this is a sport. This is not a sport. Yeah, this is just pleasure for people who have pleasure beating up other people, because otherwise you can't do that job. And this is also the cause why in our world the real Christian values and Christian profession, like being a nurse, for example, yeah, are underpaid. Yeah, and these people in the satanic world, for example, boxers and so, are tremendously overpaid, yeah, because everybody wants to see somebody beating up another guy. Yeah, so that's my closing comment to this. Handing it over to my beloved brother Brett. Hope you see you next time.
Yeah, Michael, that's something else, isn't it? People paying money to see someone get pummeled. We like to say pummeled, you know, getting the tar beat out of you. Let's put it that way. Yeah, it's pretty sick world. Yeah, pretty sick world. But yeah, so here we have the fact of the matter. We're looking at the death of Bruce Lee 50 years later, and yeah, pretty fascinating, Michael, how all these things tie together in the end.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we have been started.
Yeah, we're just starting on this.
Just started.
Yeah. But I know where it's headed. And yeah, it's not a small thing. It's a pretty big deal. So we'll just keep traveling down this path, Michael, with you, and hopefully we have enough time and energy to deal with it. I know this is a lot to take in, and certainly there are moments where I can't keep up. It's just so much information. It's hard to keep up with all of it, you know. Especially when you're dealing with the mafia and, you know, all these different corrupt people throughout the industries. You know, they all it all adds up, as they say, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's not really a sport, as you say. It's just kind of a offshoot of a demonic world, is what it is, in my humble opinion. Not a sport, but rather just flesh fighting flesh. I mean, how materialistic can you get? It's about as materialistic as you can get, I think. But anyway, Michael, pleasure to have you on again and to get the inside scoop on your research dealing with the death of Bruce Lee and looking at the dark side of what goes on under the what should we say, the watch of the directors. Like Bruce Lee was doing his role to be a director and an actor both in his production company, and yeah, look what happened to him. But anyway, hope to see you next time. God willing, we'll be back and continuing down the same path into the death of Bruce Lee. Hope to see you then. God bless. Bye-bye.